You're good. You're live.
Under pressure.
Commissioners, welcome to the February 18th, 2026 meeting of the Clark County Charter Review Commission. Thank you for being here. If you please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty. Thank you. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Ottaguame,
Present.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Present.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
Here.
Commissioner Erickson,
Here.
Secretary Garber,
Here.
Commissioner Hamlick,
Here.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Here.
Commissioner Landisberg,
Here.
Commissioner Jay,
Here.
Commissioner Klein,
Here.
Commissioner Gasquet,
Here.
Commissioner Holmgren,
Here.
Commissioner Benton,
Here.
Vice Chair Haas,
Here.
and Commissioner Silliman.
Present. Thank you. We have a quorum. We'll now seek approval of the agenda. We do have one revision that we would like to request. Under new business, item A, concept disclosure discussion. We would like to address that first before beginning on our old business. And I'd like to entertain a motion with that amendment, please.
I'll move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
Benton?
Are there any opposed to adopting the agenda as amended?
Who made the motion?
Commissioner LeBrandt?
Thank you.
Can I ask you what it is?
Concept disclosure discussion.
Yes.
That is step one of the work plan overview that we adopted last week, that we said we'd be doing today.
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner Adequami?
Would you mind just giving us a little bit of a overview of the reason for the amendment to the agenda?
Yes. In our last meeting, when we went over the work plan, some of the comments that we received as to reaction to the work plan was that some people wanted the opportunity to begin the process so that they would be in a better position to evaluate the balance of the work plan. And so by beginning the concept disclosure discussion, we achieved that in response to those comments. It then puts us in a position where we can discuss the balance of the work plan and how or if we want to adopt additional steps.
And if I may ask, is that going before public comment, or where would we be moving that to in the order?
That would go after comments from support staff and before old business.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, are there any opposed to adopting the agenda as amended? Okay, seeing, okay, Liz?
Finish that business, then I've got an input point.
Okay, and seeing no objections, it's the agenda is adopted as amended. Commissioner Klein?
Mr. Chairman, the WebEx link is not working according to someone who has texted me.
It is working. I tested it.
So the link on the agenda is not working.
Are they going online?
Yes.
And
Second that.
It's the published meeting link for the WebEx, and he sent me the text, a picture of the online link.
okay, that's how I got in today.
May I make a recommendation that we test this before every meeting? Thank you.
I believe that's happening, but we can revisit that. Michelle, it's your understanding that we are functional?
We are. We actually have public online that has their hand raised for public comment already. So I know the link is working online.
Okay, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay, we now will move to open public comment.
We don't have anybody signed up in the room here, but we do have somebody online. And let me get the timer out. Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please go ahead and do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. There was some confusion because when I called in, it told me to unmute myself at that time. So I did it anyway. And I just redid it now upon your request. So maybe some little glitch there. I'm calling regarding the Charter Amendment number 17 of 2024. And I'm hoping that the commission will take a look at that amendment because the explanatory statement and the ballot measure was very short and small. And yet, when you look at the full measure, you see that it was 2 pages in tiny print, and many additions and several strikeouts were made. So I think that it deserves more consideration by the commission. It was also proposed by a single individual, the county auditor, and he did mention another person that he was working with on it, but it was not ever reviewed by a commission such as is meeting today. So I hope you'll revisit that amendment and look at it in your 2 years here that you're serving us and possibly put something better to the people. And also in the online voters guide, which I believe is prepared by the state, the full ballot measure language is not included. But you can find it in the local voters guide, which is posted online. So I think I would like to see it in both locations so that people can actually read the full measure. It's really important. And I appreciate what you're doing here and thank you for taking these public comments.
Caller, we thank you for your comment. Can you please state your name for the record?
Yes, Margaret Tweet, and I'm a Clark County resident.
Thank you, Margaret. That concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you. We'll now seek approval of our February 11th, 2026 meeting minutes. Is there anyone that would like to move?
So moved. Peter Solomon.
Seconded, Commissioner Jay.
Okay. So are there any objections to approval of the minutes in their current format? Seeing none, they are approved. We'll now move to executive committee reports. I'll begin by mentioning a follow-up on a comment made last week that CBTV has expressed interest in doing a story on the Charter Review Commission, and they are scheduled to be at our next meeting a week from today. And they'll be in the room filming for some period of that time. Immediately before our meeting at about 4 o'clock, they will also be taking a few comments from myself and Commissioner Gasquet, which will be incorporated into the overall story of the Charter Review Commission. Commissioner Garber, do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, I really don't at this time.
Commissioner Haas, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I do not.
Okay, that completes comments. The executive committee reports. We'll then go to Michelle. Do you have any comments that you would like to share?
I was just going to introduce Rebecca, who will be filling in for me the first week in March. That was all.
Thank you. Okay, we will now then move to our first business item. In our last meeting, we had a discussion about the work plan overview. And there were three components to the work plan. There was the process by which we deliberate upon and adopt amendments. There was the timeline and scheduling of that plan, and then a public outreach. Within the process of deliberating and adopting amendments, there were several steps that were discussed, and this body chose to adopt step one of that process, which was described as the concept disclosure. And that step includes a discussion whereby we have the opportunity to go around the room and share amendment topics that we are interested in. This allows each of us to communicate with each other on those topics and allow for voluntary collaboration in the process of completing steps 2 and 3 of that process, which we'll be discussing today, which would be the intake form and then the first reading of that intake form. On that form, there is the intent is to identify a sponsor and additional co-sponsors. So through this concept disclosure process, this gives us the opportunity to, in an OPMA-friendly manner, identify amongst ourselves who has overlapping interests and facilitate voluntary coordination with the goal of minimizing competing similar amendments so that there can be some consolidation around similar topics. So before we begin, are there any questions? Commissioner Garber.
What is the time limit that each person has to speak on these?
Well, there's 15 of us. So if we each take between up to 2 to 3 minutes, then that would be 45 minutes. And then at the completion of that, we'll take a break. So the intent is about 2 to 3 minutes. This will be recorded, meaning that what we discuss and the ideas that we bring forward today will show up on our minutes. You're not required, but you are encouraged to share amendment ideas that you're contemplating. Should you not disclose something today, that does not prevent you from filling out an intake form later. So I'll pause again and ask if there are any questions before we begin. Commissioner Alaguemi.
Chair, just to be clear on this, at the level of a concept, are you asking for, a commissioner has a general idea about this and it's a topic? Is it a fully fleshed out amendment at this point in time? What is the intent of the concept disclosure? How granular would you like us to get in our 2 minutes?
Yep, that's a good question. Thank you. So I'm going to use an example of a topic that has been discussed before, and regarding the clerk. So if that were a concept that I was interested in pursuing, when my turn arrives, on that topic, I would say whether the clerk is appointed or remains to be elected. It's that simple. You could choose to add a little bit more detail if you wish, but it could be that simple. It allows for identification of similar interests and overlap for the purposes of then coming together voluntarily to complete that intake form and identify sponsors and co-sponsors where there's similar interests.
Thank you, Chair. That's helpful.
Yes,
Commissioner Donnelly.
yes. I would like to ask if Michelle will be making note of all these, or because I would tend to be scribbling down everything everyone would say. And do I need to do that, or it will be done for us before the next meeting?
It will be done for you, but you're also welcome to take notes and then send them in if you feel like you misspoke or there's some clarifications or you want to add something.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, well, I'm going to suggest that Commissioner Adegwame always is called upon first to vote and otherwise. So we could go around the room, or Commissioner Adegwame, if you do not want to go first this time, we could find another protocol.
I'm happy to go first. Alphabetically, I almost always have.
Okay, so you can begin. I will say, you know, what we'll try, if we end up with a little extra time, if after hearing everyone go around, if there's something that you've heard that you would like to add to your name to in terms of expressing interest in that topic, we'll afford that opportunity as well.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. There are 3 or 4 items that I have for concept disclosure. The first being looking at strengthening the requirements for the public disclosure and publication of just a widespread attempt at further transparency of the annual report that's issued by the county, I believe the county manager's office. The second being looking at the reporting structure for the Office of Oversight and Ethics. I think currently that's administered by the county manager's office, but I think there's something to look at there. Review and potential revision, but not saying that I have a definite idea on revision of some of our direct democracy mechanisms, right? So thinking about the initiative process, the referendum process, how we get charter amendments put onto the ballot. So those are sort of the things that stuck out to me when I was reviewing in advance for this meeting. Beyond that, I just want to highlight things that we can do for transparency and public access, accountability, ethics, and oversight, any structural clarity that we can bring to the charter, as well as role definition between branches, any attempts to modernize how we think about governance and public engagement, just increasing I want to see us fully flesh out the requirements that we have for how our county officials engage with the public. And not saying that there's something definite there that I'm proposing, but I think there's something to be said for how we strengthen that requirement in the charter. So thank you, Chair, for the time.
Thank you. Michelle, just to keep us on track, would you be able to start the timer? Not that Commissioner Adegwame was went over limit, but I think it would help us stay at 3, please. Okay, Commissioner Holgren, are you ready to go next?
So I think the first that I talked about in the campaign was clarifying the redistricting committee. I think that the work that we've done a lot of work on changing it, and I think some of that has been good, and some of it has led to greater confusion. And I think we should be sitting down and making sure that it's absolutely clear what the purpose of the redistricting committee is and how it's structured and what decisions it can and cannot make. Another question that I've been thinking about is this whole clerk discussion brings up the question of, should we be having this discussion about all of the elected executive offices beyond just the clerk? I think the only one that's mandated to be elected is the prosecuting attorney. And so if that's the case, are all of the executive positions, should they be up for having a similar conversation about, do we want it to be professional hiring practices and appointed rather than elected? And then another question that I would think that should be discussed is the size of the county council. I think 7 is or I guess 5 is a fine number, but there is a question of, should it be set based off of population size? And so do we look at putting into the charter a set population representation threshold where additional county council members are added as the county grows? Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner LeBrand, are you ready?
I am. Just very briefly, some of the things that I've heard come up are discussing the threshold for initiative and referendum. Whether or not, and similar to Commissioner Holmgren's point, whether or not the county executive is elected or not. Some discussion around timing and handling of a review for the county executive. Also had some discussion come up in terms of public safety or sheriff funding. Um, And then any potential clarification of the relationship between the Charter Review Commission and the county organization as a whole, whether that's, in terms of funding or who reports to whom, or kind of just clarifying a little bit what that structure looks like. And then certainly, I think the previous points raised by my two fellow commissioners so far, good discussion points.
Okay. Thank you very much. Commissioner Chrisley?
I don't personally have any major pressing issues, but I could see room for conversation around the clerk. I can see conversation around redistricting as well. Those are all hot button points. And to the redistricting point, also on the how many counselors are on. 5 is a good number, but should it be population based? I think that's a valid talking point. Aside from that, I'd like to see us continue to clean up some of the language in the charter as we move through these amendments to make sure that it's clear and easy to read for the lay people and it's not super complicated. I think that's important. And maintaining a great sense of transparency overall, I think is going to be real important.
Thank you. Commissioner Benton.
Some of the things that come to mind, things that I heard from people throughout the campaign process as I was talking to folks in the community, transparency in our budgeting process, making that more accessible to the people of the county so they have a better understanding, potentially a balanced budget amendment. I know we're the only county that operates under this charter form of government that doesn't require a balanced budget. Public safety. So working on defining that that's kind of a paramount duty of the county, something around that. And then I'd like to see us have a conversation about county council staff, making sure that they have the support staff required to adequately administer their duties.
Thank you. Commissioner Klein.
I too want to see the initiative process adjusted with thresholds being balanced such that the initiatives have a better chance of getting through, get onto the ballot. I want to protect all elected positions from being transitioned to appointed positions under the county manager. I would like to also see county councilors have direct report support from existing county staff. I want to see that the county councilors are allowed unmonitored meeting time with their constituents without county staff or leadership present. And I would have an interest in seeing that no county funds be used to support foreign operation and management expenses, as in the TriMet light rail coming into Clark County.
Thank you. Commissioner Garber.
I'm very interested in the initiative and referendum proposed charter amendment also. I think that the requirement for signatures need to go down from 10 to 8%. I think we need to look at how the unincorporated area is determined and use current data. And I'd also like to see the election staff be allowed to use random statistical sampling of signatures the way they do at the state. Of course, this could only be used to accept a petition, could not be used solely to reject them. I would also like to clarify nonpartisan office elections, and if there's 2 elected officials running in the primary, I would like it to be treated like a nonpartisan, have them go directly to the general, saving a lot of taxpayer money. I would like it to have a discussion about the how often we elect charter review commissioners. I feel like it made sense to have us come 5 years after that first charter review, but I think that a good charter doesn't need to be tinkered with every 5 years. I'd like us to look at that, but also leave the length of term. I think we should look at county council's compensation. I think that they need to be paid a full-time wage so they would be more accessible, and it would enlarge the candidate pool of people that might not otherwise run if they were, because they need to have a second job. I also would like to look at something regarding the ethics and maybe a creation of a public advocate or an ombudsman who would act as a liaison between citizens and the council for kind of investigatory and to make sure citizens' complaints about county government are heard. And this one was given to me by a citizen, but I'd like to have discussion regarding ALS interpretive services and other accommodations at county council meetings. I think that people that are part of the deaf community, captioning is just not enough because their sentence structure does not work the same as ours does. And reading is very hard for them, and I would like to see ALS interpreter services. ASL. Thank you. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, speaking for myself, I have a number of topics here I'm just going to go through. I do have interest in a discussion around what a balanced budget amendment would look like. I do have interest in the Ethics Commission. I think that the number of folks on that commission should be increased to 5. I think because they serve as both judge and jury, I think 3 is too few. I'm interested in discussions around public safety. I'm also interested in lowering the signature threshold for initiative and referendum. I do have interest in a discussion around giving the council additional resources, whether it's staff and or increased compensation so that they could better focus on their responsibilities, which are becoming increasingly complex. And as Commissioner Garber pointed out, increase the pool of candidates. However, if we did do that, if the commission were paid a full-time salary, I would like to see a companion amendment introducing local term limits. I have interest in an amendment that was just recently passed in Whatcom County that requires the county to assess the implications of housing and land costs should they make any changes to development laws and codes. I do have interest in a discussion, like I believe Commissioner LeBrandt said, around reviews and accountability around the county manager. It's not a comment on our current county manager, but on the way in which the position is structured. Although I do want to see how the council ends up addressing that, which I think they have been. I think that there is room in the charter to clarify how members of the council are expected to vote or not expected to vote on external boards, and whether or not there is any recall capability there. And then I'm also interested in a discussion around the number of votes amongst the county council before taxes can be further increased. Commissioner Haas.
I too am interested in a balanced budget and talking about that. Then public safety is also on the top of my list, along with keeping our elected officials elected. I had not heard the county manager being elected, but that would be something we could also look into.
Thank you. Commissioner Selman, please.
Red list, but I can go through them quickly. Everybody knows that I support public safety and would like to see an amendment to our charter, making that the county's paramount duty. I would also like to propose an amendment limiting annual levy increases to 1% without a vote of the people. I would also like to specify, a couple people touched on this, that employees of the legislative branch would report to the council. They currently report to the county manager. I would also like to authorize performance audits to be conducted by the legislative branch or the county council specifically. I would also like to add investigative authority to the legislative branch. This would be similar to the idea of an ombuds, somebody that investigates complaints to the county and give them authority to investigate that independently of the county staff. I would also like to modify the budget process, back it up a little bit so there's more transparency and also require posting of more information on the budget on the county website. Some people touched on transparency earlier, so maybe we can get together with that. I also have, somebody touched on require a cost analysis of any proposed land use regulations. I believe that's what you said. I also have one about voter registration integrity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Selman. Commissioner Landesberg.
Okay, I'd like to see an amendment to the charter, which would say they could designate counselors to serve on boards and commissions and the process to remove counselors by a majority vote on these commissions. Kind of like what I call the Belcott Amendment, clarify what's going on. I ran on amending the redistricting committee process, and so we've talked enough about it. I don't think I need to go into any more detail at the moment. And since I spent my career in the courtroom, I definitely want to work on the amendment to appoint the clerk rather than elect the clerk of the court. But I know a bunch of people here don't like it, but I think voters in a charter county should be able to vote on it, on the issue. And we should, when we're looking at county manager, we should look at whether or not, right now, the county manager is appointed by county council, whether or not the deputy county manager should be appointed by the county council as well, particularly since we've had a vacancy for many months. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gasquet, please.
The most important issue for me is making the ethics policy a little bit more robust. I think there was a lot of disappointment with the council when they made the code of ethics just point to state law. That's not what we passed that amendment for. We want something bigger that goes beyond state law. So I'd like to get some language in there that makes that clear. I'm also would like to go back to my original proposals from 2021. I do think we need an inspector general rather than having that fall under the county manager.
Thank you. Commissioner Jay, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll run through a few ideas. Number one, I would like to prohibit the county council from interfering with initiatives and charter amendments, whether by passing support or opposition to. I would also like to agree on working towards requiring land supply and construction cost analysis for any policies that might impact that passed by the county council, so we can get an assessment on increased housing prices. I'd like to work on checks and balances between the county council and the executive, which I know is a big thing that can go from staff to pay to the firewall to council being a policymaking body. I'd like to more so model our county along the lines of Vancouver potentially. I would like a supermajority requirement for raising both property and sales taxes. I would also like to work on public safety as paramount duty, and potentially as well increasing the threshold for county originated levies, such as from the parks, Greater Vancouver Parks District, to increase it to a 60% requirement to pass by voters as opposed to a 50% +1 requirement as it currently is. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Donnelly, please.
Yes, as several others have mentioned, with regard to the assessor, auditor, clerk, prosecuting attorney, sheriff, and treasurer, I would like an amendment that would just reaffirm and protect the voters' rights to hold these officials directly accountable at the ballot box, not to be taken away from it by any county entity. That's one. And then the second, with regard to public safety, which is extremely important, I would like to work on a proposed amendment that would affirm that it is the paramount duty of the county to make ample provision for public safety, and even to go beyond that, to establish a reasonable and verifiable level of staffing funding for the sheriff's office that would be linked to the periodically updated statewide standard published independently by a third party, in this case, the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, who update these data every year. So those two, and then I would also think it's important for us to make it clear when a council member serves on a third-party committee. I think others have brought this up. What is their role? Who do they represent? Do they represent their district? Do they represent their own views, or do they represent the council as a whole? That's very important. So those are my three.
Thank you. Commissioner Hamblick, please.
After listening to all of you, you have really good ideas. I would really get behind on some of them, but big thing for me is check and balances and audit performances. I think those are really important. Public outreach. I just feel if you ever try to find something on the county webpage, it's very difficult. Try to read the budget. I just would like to make things a little clearer for our public. I think that's really important. But transparency is number one for me too, but really audits, checks and balances, and making public aware is really important. I feel our public is probably the ones that are the most angry with the county because they don't feel their voices are heard, or can they find things?
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, thank you very much. We'll now create an opportunity if you've heard something that you would like to add your name to in support of, or at least an interest, or if there's a topic that you didn't think to mention in your first turn, we'll now open the floor back up if anyone else would like to have a second opportunity to express interest in certain topics. Commissioner Benton?
I just want to clarify, this won't be our only opportunity to talk to people and say, hey, I want to work with you and throw my name in on something, right?
That's correct. We may not have another general disclosure session like this, but as I mentioned earlier, your participation or your level of participation in this discussion doesn't preclude you from reaching out to other commissioners, deciding if you want to collaborate and jointly fill out the intake form and become a co-sponsor, or solicit co-sponsors if you intend to be a sponsor. Commissioner Adequame.
Chair, thank you. Just had one more thing that I was remiss in not bringing up that I'd heard out when talking to community, and then a second ask for clarification. So I'll state the idea, and then I want to come back to just a clarification request. One being that a thing that some constituents had talked about is having this commission revisit ranked choice voting. That's just something that I heard as a point of feedback. And then second, we heard a lot of consensus for some items that were mentioned maybe 8-10 times, right? I think a lot of people were on board for certain things. So is the ask here that we start to reach out to some of our fellow commissioners and get their co-sponsor, what have you? What do we do for these larger items, which may not be as OPMA friendly as you put it, to start to discuss if there's a lot of interest?
I understand your question. There isn't necessarily an ask as well as much as there is a clarification that the intent of this process is to, one, inform each other, and two, the public as well as to what this commission is thinking. What ideas have we brought to the table? Of course, we have yet to talk about public outreach and what that will look like. But to start with, these are the ideas that the members of the commission are bringing forward. We expect today to continue our discussion on the work plan, which would include discussion about the intake form and a first and second reading. And the opportunity exists to allow commissioners to collaborate together. So it's not an ask, it's not a requirement, it's an opportunity. Commissioner LeBrant, did you have your hand up earlier?
I did. Another idea that occurred to me that I heard brought up is the structure of the county board of health. And currently that's comprised of the council. And I think there may be some interest or at least some discussion potential around structuring that differently and maybe having that board appointed by the council rather than consisting of the council. Also, as we brought up public safety being a paramount duty, we may want to consider public health in that discussion.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to raise other topics or express interest in topics that they've already heard?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, is the idea to restate topics for myself that other people brought up that they might not know I'm interested in?
That's an opportunity. Yes. If you heard a topic that you're interested in that you didn't initiate yourself, you're welcome to make that known and share.
Okay, I got 3 for those of you that restated it. Council appointments to boards. I'd be interested in.
Commissioner Silliman, can I have you speak more into the mic? Kathleen's online taking notes, so just FYI.
So I'd be interested in council appointments to boards as well. Council compensation. I can't remember who brought that up. And also nonpartisan elections. I think Kathy brought that up.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has additional comments, ideas they'd like to share originally or to express interest in topics that others have raised? Commissioner Landberg.
That we have as part of our break, maybe an extra couple minutes so we could just meet with each other to sort of offer our volunteer status or combine things.
Sure. And that can happen, in a break. It can happen outside of this meeting. As long as it's, it's not more than 7 people, then, you can get together at your convenience to do that as well. Commissioner Aragome.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to state that I believe Secretary Garber better articulated the point I was trying to make around the initiative referendum process and the ombudsman. I think I have some interest in that. And then to Commissioner LeBrand's point about the Board of Public Health, I also have interest in that.
Thank you. Commissioner Gasky.
Yeah, I would like to express interest in public engagement, full-time wage for the county council, and also looking at setting some numbers for how many districts we have per counselor, or how the population of the district per counselor.
Thank you. Katie, please.
I would caution against meeting during break to discuss because we are in a quorum. And the appearance is that action would be and discussion would be happening outside of the public meeting. So I would not recommend that.
Thank you. That's good. And good. We appreciate that. Commissioner LeBrand, please.
If I can piggyback on that, we also probably want to be really careful about who we're meeting with and how we're discussing things outside the meeting. There's nothing preventing us from discussing one-on-one, but we want to be careful not to create what's called a serial meeting under OPMA. So if you're meeting with this person and this person and this person, this person, and starting to kind of unofficially take votes of things, that's discouraged under OPMA as well. And the spirit of that is to draw it into this room so that the general public has access to the discussions that are happening as much as possible.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We will be touching on that as well when we get to discussion about number of co-sponsors that are permissible. Katie, you have another comment, please?
Yes, just that, if you're having one-on-one meetings, to go from, and by the way, Commissioner so-and-so said this, and then Commissioner so-and-so said this, that can create that series. So you have to be communicating your own ideas to that direct person, but not communicating what you have heard elsewhere from someone else.
Commissioner Landsberg.
So for those who are talking about changing the number of county counselors or how many based on population, I think that should be combined with the redistricting committee, which is done with the census. I think we will have competing ideas if it's done separately. So I would suggest those who are interested that we merge it. I don't care what we call it, but it needs to be merged.
Thank you. Those are related topics. Commissioner Adequame.
Chair, if it's my understanding, we're taking note of all of these topics that are coming forward, and those will be disseminated to us after this. Is there a point in time in which you envision us distilling those down into those working committees or working sessions so that we don't need to have any sort of external meetings, right? We're just bringing that here into this forum.
That's a good question. We'll be discussing that after our break. I think your question speaks to what the balance of our work plan will look like in subsequent steps. So after our break, we're intending to dig back into that and hopefully provide some clarity to your question. Commissioner Chrisley.
Yeah, I just want to caution this body as everybody brings their ideas to the table. I think that's great. But I think, as we're servants of the county constituents, I think it's important that we figure out a way to really bring the county's population into this room as opposed to making this charter in our image, which is something I campaigned heavily on. So I want to make sure that everybody's got their ideas and they formulated those ideas. I would be willing to bet mostly on their own regard. So I want to make sure that we're bringing in our constituents in this too, because we are elected to represent those members of our district.
Thank you. Commissioner Garber.
I would like to participate with Commissioner Solomon on the voter integrity. I feel like with my experience in elections, I just want to make sure that we're following state law and we're really understanding what really occurs in the elections office.
And I'll just make a quick comment to Commissioner Chrisley's comment. It's a point well taken. Right now, we're casting a purposefully wide net. And the discussion that we'll be having after the break about the balance of the work plan is intended to allow for deliberation, discussion, and a winnowing process that can help us focus and narrow. And as we're doing that, we can take into consideration various types of criteria, including what you supported. Thank you. Commissioner Hamlick.
So I have a question. So some people have mentioned counselor on sitting on commissions and things like that. So where do we take into consideration what the policy and procedures that the county council just did and upgraded and put that into their policies and procedure handbook? I mean, how do we find like my checks and balances? I have questions about what is being done now and what is in the policies and procedures. So is there a way we can, I don't want to repeat things that are already being done.
Well, that's a very good question. And those are important questions that we'll need to address. Initially, I think there's two mechanisms at least that are contemplated. First, we do envision a discussion about whether or not this body would like to formally invite some of our elected officials to come and address us, which would create a different scenario than if they were to show up and as a member of the public and make their comments. If they were invited here by this commission, then it allows for some dialogue and some questions. And so that would be an opportunity to have those kinds of discussions. Secondly, if we do adopt the work plan which includes referment of amendment topics to committees, then the committee could be tasked with looking into some of those issues as well, understanding what the county council is doing and their own policies and how or if a charter amendment meshes with that or not, and how the two would interface. Commissioner Adequame.
Sorry, Chair, just a quick question. I've heard you mention a couple of times after the break. Is there a break that we're taking in this 2-hour session?
Well, we're going to propose one, yes. It's not on the agenda, but we did take one last time. And so roughly at about halfway through, our practice going forward will be to take a short break.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, are there any other comments? Katie?
Just for the record as well, that the charter has purview over, obviously, the charter and the codes and policies locally. But anything that is proposed here, it cannot be in conflict with state law or, of course, federal law. So that, I just want to kind of say that maybe also for the public at large, that's the parameters behind your work.
Yeah, the charter can't conflict with federal law or state law. I interpreted Commissioner Hamlick's comment to be a reference to discussions that are currently happening in the county council with respect to the topic about how counselors are, how they're to function and how they're appointed and potentially removed on external boards. So to the extent that we do pursue that topic in the charter amendment, that would be an example of a topic that would merit some discussions and investigations so that those two things don't conflict. Commissioner LeBrandt.
And just a quick piggyback. The county council, my understanding is under state law, can't restrict a future county council, whereas we can. So there may be benefit. We may decide together that there's benefit to taking like what the county council has currently adopted and tweaking it and just throwing it on the ballot.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, then if there are no objections, then we'll take a 5-minute recess. Let's convene back at, I'm sorry, Commissioner Adegwami.
Sorry, you said if there are no objections, I do object to that.
You object to it? Okay. Well, then we'll ask for a vote. Is there a motion
move that we recess for 5 minutes for a break?
I second, Benton.
Okay, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor of taking a 5-minute break, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Okay, it is approved. We'll take a 5-minute break. We'll recess or we'll return back at 6:03. Welcome back, commissioners. Thank you. Appreciate your participation in that last discussion. We're now going to circle back to the old business portion of our agenda, first being the work plan. We brought this topic up at the last meeting, and there were several comments that went into that discussion. We ended up approving step 1. Michelle, could you please go to what's the third page of that document, please?
The work plan outlay?
Yes, please. Yep, thank you. So in our last meeting, this body approved step 1, which we just did. And amongst the comments that were received were, before approving additional steps, some of the comments were with respect to a desire to have a little bit more time to review this process and contemplate it. We're hoping that over the last week that opportunity has been afforded. Secondly, some mentioned that they wanted the opportunity to get into the process, which would then presumably position them to better evaluate the balance of the proposed process. We're hoping that the discussion we just had meets that need. And then thirdly, there were some comments about a desire to look for ways to make this process a little bit more efficient and perhaps consolidate some of the latter steps. So what we are hoping to achieve today is to review, pick up the discussion on this, and seek approval of as many steps as this body is comfortable proceeding at this time. We'd also then would like to have a discussion about step 2, which is the proposal intake form, and also have a discussion on the formation of a work plan subcommittee. So I'd like to open up the discussion around the balance of the work plan, starting with steps 2 and beyond. And I will point out that because we've approved step 1, and we just completed step 1, that for us to continue on this process next week, we will need to approve some additional steps. So we're hoping to have that discussion, find out where there is consensus, and ideally approve as many of these steps as we're ready to. Find out where that boundary is between what we're ready to accept now versus what might be better addressed by the subcommittee, if any steps at all. And then approve ideally the intake form with any amendments that people see. And again, get back to the subcommittee work plan. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Benton.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to accept steps 2 and 3 as proposed.
Okay, and for clarification, steps 2 and 3, step 2 up on the board is the use of a proposal intake form, which would allow for specific amendments to be documented and submitted, identifying sponsor, any voluntary co-sponsors, and then the intake form would then qualify for that proposal amendment to have a first reading, which is step 3.
Peter Silliman, I'll second.
Okay. We'll go to the discussion. Commissioner Adegwame.
Chair, you'd asked for any questions or comments, and now we're in this motion. So do you intend to entertain the motion and disregard your request for questions and comments, or should we do questions and comments before entertaining the motion?
Thank you for that clarification. We'll entertain your question. If there are other questions, then we will go back and entertain the motion.
Chair, sorry, I did have my hand up for a question and or comment based on that. And then the motion sort of happened in between your request for questions and comments and then my actual question. So,
okay,
if I may.
Yep, please proceed.
Okay, so standard intake form submitted to chair. Just a question about whether or not there's an understanding here that we should be sending it to staff as well, or copying staff, or sending it to staff who then repackages it to you, or are we not trying to be that prescriptive here in this item? I just want to make sure that, you know, we're not losing any in the shuffle, as it were. And then also it's easier for staff to then turn around and have it posted to the charter website. So we're not asking our chair to hit forward on all of these emails for no reason, right? So is that something you intend to line out here, or?
Well, part of this discussion is to decide if we want to make any amendments, including what you're discussing. Eventually, an approved intake form would be posted to the website. It could be concurrently copied to staff as well as the chair. However, before it would be posted, there would be confirmation that the form is completely filled and so forth before it's posted. So that would require a review by a member of the executive committee or the chair specifically before staff is told that should proceed with posting it to the website. But that's a clarification that if this body chooses could be incorporated into this outline. Okay, are the comments questions, or are they with respect to the motion? Commissioner Donnelly?
I would like to make a comment with respect to the motion.
Okay.
And I support the motion. In the last week, I filled out the intake form for a couple of ideas that I have, just in order to test and see my reaction and response. And I evaluate the form as being fine in its current form. So I support numbers 2 and 3 as according to the motion that was just made by Commissioner Benton.
Okay, so Commissioner Jay. Okay,
My comment is both general and pertaining to the motion. My concern with approving both 2 and 3 is I'm not ready to prepare personally to vote on the overall plan or any part of it that requires voting until we have a general idea of how many votes it would take. So I would be prepared to accept proposal intake, but until we have an idea, I would like to see us have this process down to 4 votes if possible, and that would be dependent upon my vote. So I'd like to, in general, see us at 4 votes, but for now, I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to Brad to make it only the acceptance of the proposal intake.
Okay, any other discussion? Commissioner Landsberg?
My question on the form, okay, so I did fill out the form, but it's pretty hard to figure out an optional co-sponsor. I mean, Morgan and I were both on the redistricting committee. We both talked about it, but how do I get him to say, gee, I want to be a co-sponsor and still comply with the Open Meetings Act?
Well, the discussion that we just had earlier in this meeting was intended to allow for that identification of overlap of interest. So the topics that were discussed and those who expressed interest in those topics will be included in our meeting minutes. So when that comes out, you'll be able to see who has interest in which topics, and then you could voluntarily collaborate based on that guidance. Commissioner Garber.
One thing that I would like to see is on the intake form, if we're, if we're making a motion for 2 and 3 and the intake forms part of that, I think we need to remove the section that has our signature. There's no reason for our signature to be out there on the website. And like Commissioner Erickson mentioned to me earlier, them sending it to the chair from your charter review email shows it came from you. And I don't think a signature would be needed on that and should be eliminated.
Commissioner Garber, to clarify, the intent behind that is to avoid any potential identity theft, for example, because the signature is publicly available. Okay, Commissioner Alaguane.
Thank you, Chair. I want to echo some of Commissioner Jay's comments. I feel personally that we as a body are ready to approve both 2 and 3. I think 2 with modification would make sense to me. I did not hear an acceptance to Commissioner Jay's friendly amendment either. So it seems like I would be opposed to the motion as it is currently on the floor. That being said, I also think that approving 2 shouldn't necessarily mean that we're approving the form in its current version. It seems like we're just approving the step here, right? So there should be a subsequent task or item to review the form. And I think at that point in time, we should make modifications to it if there need be modifications.
Yeah, point well taken. Commissioner LeBrant.
As I look down our agenda, we have a work plan subcommittee item. And I'm probably not inclined to support the motion as currently expressed. I don't see any harm one way or the other on approving step 2. But I think it could be beneficial to punt the remainder of the work plan to that work plan subcommittee, to standing that committee up and then have them bring that back, have them bring out a more hammered out version at a subsequent meeting.
Commissioner Benton.
For the sake of efficiency, I will withdraw the motion and now move to accept only step 2.
Second, Commissioner Jay.
Okay. Is your motion with respect to the step 2 is the proposal intake form? A version of that was distributed. You've heard some comments about some potential revisions or interest in reviewing that. Is your motion with respect to the current version or the yet to be amended version
of step 2?
The intake form itself. Michelle, would you be able to put up on the screen what the intake form looks like? So that
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
point of clarification, isn't the actual form itself a separate business item that we're going to address rather than addressing it as a step on the work plan? If we're just approving the step, are we also approving the form, or I thought that would be a separate item based on your.
Yeah, it's for this body to decide, but right now we are discussing the plan itself. And the option does exist that if we want to approve the plan with the understanding that, for example, step 2, with the understanding that it's conditioned upon acceptable modifications to the intake form itself, then that's a discussion. I think there's others who have that interest. Commissioner Alarcon.
Chair, if I may, to echo Commissioner Sullivan's point, approving step 2 says that there will be a standardized intake form. It has nothing to do with the form itself, right? So I don't think a motion to approve step 2 means anything germane to the form whatsoever.
Thank you. So I believe the motion on the floor then is to approve step 2, which does make reference to the intake form, but without reference to the specific version of the intake form. Is that correct? Correct. Commissioner Benton? Okay. Is there a second to that? Mr. Jay, yes, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Are there any opposed to the acceptance of step 2? Commissioner Chrisley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not opposed. I just want to, Commissioner Kwame brought up a point about standard intake form submitted to chair. Were we going to carry it in staff there as well? Or is it just going to the chair? I just want to clarify that.
Well, the motion right now is with respect to the current wording. If there's interest in amending that to clarify that would be sent to staff and chair, then that could be a secondary motion. Commissioner Alarcon.
Chair, if I may offer an amendment to the motion as currently proposed to add the staff to the folks submitted there. So language might look like submitted to chair and staff.
Okay. Is there a second for that amendment?
Second that.
Commissioner Chrisley. Okay. Any objections to that amendment?
Question.
Commissioner
Who
Lansberg.
is staff?
It would be Michelle.
So when you're gone, someone's going to be reading your emails?
When I'm gone, I will read my emails. I'm never really gone.
Okay, so the amendment calls for completed intake forms to be sent to chair and staff. That's been seconded. Is there any objection to that amendment? Okay, seeing none, we're back to the main motion, which is to approve step 2 with the amendment that we just approved. Is there, and Commissioner Jay seconded that, I believe. Okay. Is there any discussion on that topic? Commissioner Lansberg.
Secretary Garber said she didn't want our signature on the form. So is this the place where we should be amending the form, or is that somewhere else?
We discussed earlier recently that we would take up the form itself separately. Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Alarcon.
Chair, I just want to voice my support for the motion as currently amended. And if we have no further discussion, I would advocate for calling the question, please.
Is there any opposed to the motion, which is to accept the amended version of step 2? Okay, seeing none, it is approved. So we're still within the work plan discussion before we go to the intake form itself. It does leave us with the ability to submit an intake form, which the form of which we'll take up here later. Is there any other discussion on the balance of the work plan. I heard some discussion around trying to have a better understanding of the number of votes.
Chair.
Yep.
I move to table the rest of the work plan and refer it to the work plan subcommittee, which we will stand up as part of this agenda.
I'll second that. Peter Solomon.
Any discussion on that topic? I'll speak for myself. I will make one comment, though, that should we not approve step 3, then it's unlikely that our subcommittee will complete its work in between now and next week. So we would be static in terms of the progress of this work plan. I would express support for acceptance of step 3. And then if we so choose, the balance of the work plan could be referred to the subcommittee. Commissioner Jay.
Thank you, Chair. I am understanding of your concerns of moving the body forward. I'd like to instead eliminate step 3 as something that we would consider and combine that with step 2 and only have a single reading or first reading, just to eliminate a vote to get us down to 4 votes for this plan.
Thank you. I will mention that if the executive committee has looked at what would be page 2 of this plan, and Michelle, if you could pull that up. And in response to comments like what you just mentioned, Commissioner Jay, it would be the 4th page, Michelle. Thank you. So if the goal is to remove the number of vote thresholds in the sake of efficiency and economy, then the executive committee has identified 2 options for that. One would be the merging of steps 5 and 6, which would allow that once an amendment makes it out of the second reading, put into the portfolio, then a vote to take it out of the portfolio automatically qualifies it for both committee study and drafting. And then the additional vote that could be potentially eliminated, Michelle, if you could scroll down, please, is that there's another vote at the end of step 7 that refers to a vote to send it out of drafting to ballot referral before the final vote. So there'd be the second 2 bullets of step 7. If the goal is to get to 4 votes, then the merging of steps 5 and 6 would eliminate 1. The elimination of the 2 bullet points in step 7 would eliminate a second, which would get the overall process down to 4 votes. Commissioner Jay.
Mr. Chair, I can support these sentiments. I appreciate you for outlining them and looking into alternatives for decreasing the vote requirements to 4. So thank you.
Commissioner LeBrant.
Mr. Chair, I think we have a motion on the floor and a second to table the remaining discussion for the remainder of this meeting and refer it to the work plan subcommittee. And I'd like to express my support for that and ask that we call the question.
Okay, well, it takes 2/3 of votes. So before we call the question, I'll ask if there's any other, I haven't seen any comments.
I would like to comment.
Okay, Commissioner Chrisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Commissioner Jay's point, when we're talking about the first reading and eliminating, which was his proposal to stop at touch point, if we can have 6 co-sponsors on a bill, we wouldn't need to even take that to a vote according to the first reading. So the first reading wouldn't even be necessary at that point.
Potentially, well, presumably, if you had 6 co-sponsors plus the sponsor of that 7, it would seem to assure that you'd have those 6 votes. But the possibility exists that you might not have any co-sponsors, or there may be fewer than 6. So that the opportunity to have co-sponsors doesn't necessarily imply that that vote doesn't have a purpose. Commissioner Landsberg.
So if we wanted, we all ran on, many of us ran on issues that we wanted to see a charter amendment on. So it seems to me premature for all of a sudden for us to say, gee, I want that amendment, but not that amendment, without a committee being formed to actually develop more meat before we start voting on it.
Commissioner Jay.
To answer the questions regarding thank you, Chair, by the way. To raise a point in regards to referring to a subcommittee, I believe that would slow us down. And I would be open to even moving right now to approve the work plan with the limitations on either combining 5 and 6 or 6 and 7, as you mentioned in your outline, and just moving forward and accepting the plan as is. Excellent.
Commissioner Silliman.
Getting back to the motion on the table, which is actually to table this discussion, I would actually like to see number 3 voted on and discussed by this body. But if we're not going to go there, then we need to get at least to the intake form so that people can take a next step. So I would recommend, seeing your desire to get number 3 approved, I recommend you vote against tabling it so we can put that on the table, consider that quickly. I think it's fairly simple. If we refer to the rest of this to committee, that committee can come back with a recommendation to amend it. But if we don't get the first reading approved, we don't get to the form, and we don't have a first step in the process. You don't get to present anything to the board if we don't approve number 3. So I would recommend a vote against tabling it so that we can get back and make a motion to approve number 3.
Okay, thank you. We'll vote on the motion to table. We'll do a roll call vote. So Michelle, if you would please call the vote. The motion on the floor is to table the discussion on the work plan after having approved step 2 and refer the balance of the steps to the subcommittee. Michelle, would you please call the vote? And an aye vote is in favor of tabling.
Commissioner Ottaguame.
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly.
No.
Commissioner LeBrandt.
Aye.
Chair Erickson.
No.
Secretary Garber.
No.
Commissioner Hamlick.
Nay.
Commissioner Chrisley.
No.
Commissioner Landisberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Jay.
Nay.
Commissioner Klein.
Nay.
Commissioner Gasquet.
Aye.
Commissioner Holmgren.
Aye.
Commissioner Benton.
Nay.
Vice Chair Haas.
Nay.
And Commissioner Silliman.
Nay.
Supermajority.
5 ayes and 10 nays.
Okay, the motion fails. So where we're at is we have a approval for step 2. Commissioner Silliman.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve step 3 of the work plan as written.
I second Benton.
There's a motion on the floor to approve step 3 as written. There's been a second. And Michelle, would you be able to scroll back to the prior page so we can see step 3, please? Thank you. Commissioner Ottaguame has his hand up, and then we'll come to you, Commissioner Garber.
Sorry, Chair, my comment was just if we could get it on the screen. So thank you for addressing that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Garber.
I just wanted to say that Commissioner Silliman said to approve step 3, but I would assume he means step 2 and 3.
Well, we just approved step 2. So earlier. So the discussion now is what additional steps we would approve, and the motion is to approve step 3.
Correct. May I speak to the motion, sir?
Please do.
So to me, this is just first step. We get to submit a form, which hopefully we'll approve in a couple of minutes. This means you can schedule with the chair to present your initial ideas and make sure that you have a minimum threshold of support, which is 6 affirmative votes. So that if you have 3 people co-sponsoring it, you have 3 votes there. You need at least 6 to keep it on the agenda for this body to consider it to move forward. That's a pretty low threshold. It doesn't even require a majority vote of the body at this point. It's just a minimum threshold to approve the concept so that you can move forward. So I think it makes sense and it would allow us to move forward as a body.
Commissioner Jay.
I agree, largely. Thank you, Chair. With that, but just to give us a branch to get out of a choose your own adventure, writing this adding a new step once a week, I would propose for a friendly amendment to Commissioner Silliman to approve the entire work outline plan, but with the exception of combining steps 6 and 7. So committee study, once the committee approves and drafts something, it goes right to the commission and therefore eliminates one of the votes and allows us to move forward and have a work plan so we can get started. And also because this is in the bylaws, I believe we can amend it with a majority vote should we choose that this process doesn't work. But I would like to see that we pass this process today, if possible, and would offer that friendly amendment to Commissioner Silliman.
I'm sorry, I'm confused by your proposal since you mentioned 6 and 7 on the second page.
Yes, the committee study as well as the drafting.
We're only talking number 3 on the first page. That's all we're talking about.
I want to get the whole thing done.
I'm sorry, I wouldn't consider that a friendly amendment.
Commissioner Jay, your point's well taken. We could potentially deal with the motion to approve step 3 and then come back and entertain your motion to modify the balance with the modifications that have been discussed.
Sure thing.
Commissioner Alagami.
Chair, I recognize that in the third bullet point of step 3, there's a reference to a second reading. If we're referring the rest of this work plan to this work plan subcommittee, that might not be a thing. Who knows? Whatever comes out of the work plan subcommittee. So I think you made an earlier comment about how that would keep that proposal on the business of the commissioner, what have you. And so I think there's just better wording there that we could have for that. But beyond that, I'm inclined to support this motion.
Commissioner Silliman.
Just to clarify on that, I think the bylaw specified that this would be approved by only a majority vote. So even if we modify that section, I believe the subcommittee could come back and propose modifications, even if we approve it, and it would still only have to be approved by a majority vote of this board. So I think it'll be easy to fix your concern.
Great, thank you.
That helps.
Thank you. Commissioner LeBrandt.
In terms of process, that was part of my hope in referring it to the subcommittee, but I would actually be inclined to echo Commissioner Jay's original question around having the threshold set for the first reading of 4 votes.
Did you say, Commissioner Jay, did you change that to 4 votes in your motion?
My goal was to get to 4 votes, and to accomplish that, it was to combine the committee study and the drafting study. And my vote for the work plan is dependent on us getting to 4 votes. So.
Okay, so for clarification, I believe his comment, Commissioner Jay's comment, was with respect to the total number of votes of this commission to take an amendment all the way to the ballot, which is different than the 6 votes required in step 3 to advance the amendment from the first reading to a second reading.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve step 3. Michelle, who had the second?
Don did.
Okay, it's been seconded. There's been discussion. Is there any more discussion before we take it to a vote? Commissioner Lagwami.
Chair, I just want to be clear about the process here. So I think your concern about pulling step 3 out of the prior failed motion was that if we didn't do this, then we would have no business at the next meeting because there wouldn't be a framework in place for us to discuss the intake forms, which we still have yet to address in this session. And so I'm curious then, if we approve step 3 as currently written, are we expecting then to go into a first reading in our next session?
Yes, provided we approve the intake form in this meeting, then that would be immediately distributed and it can be filled out and submitted. And in our next meeting, we would proceed with first readings.
So do you envision that taking just one session? I'm just trying to understand the pace that's being asked for here.
Not necessarily. In fact, that is, if you recall, there are 3 components to the work plan. This deliberation process is one, time frame and schedule is a second, and the third is public outreach. So part of the task of the work plan subcommittee would be to work through all the schedules and deadlines, including what the windows of opportunity are for these various steps. But should we, regardless of the work of the subcommittee, they wouldn't necessarily prevent us from starting with first readings next week. So whether or not there's additional opportunities for first reading, which I would expect, that could be addressed by the subcommittee and come back with some refinement to the overall process based on recommended timeframes and schedules.
Thank you, Chair. I do think it would make more sense if we had a defined schedule ahead of saying, let's, we're going to choose in this session, via motion that we're going to do this thing in our next meeting, and then sort of just like hop from meeting to meeting, deciding as we go. So I'm inclined to vote in opposition to the motion as it currently is, having heard more of that feedback.
It's a fair comment. I think the remedy to that concern is for this body to approve as many steps as we feel comfortable, then allow the subcommittee to begin working and put some time schedules to those various steps so that we aren't doing, as you suggested, step by step, week by week. The more material that the subcommittee has to work with in the plan and put schedules to, the more deliberative our process can be. Okay, so the motion on the floor is the approval of step 3, first reading. Are there any opposed? Is there any other comment? Okay.
Yeah, one other comment. I think there was some discussion about the number of votes to move to the second reading. I feel like 6 does seem high in terms of being able to continue a discussion on one of these proposals that everyone has. I think at that point, we're talking about being very close to the 8 that is needed to move to the ballot. And so we may be cutting off discussion on topics that we may be interested, that may evolve over time. And so I personally think, lowering it by 1 vote to 5 would allow for us to be more deliberative in our process rather than preset on the items that are coming up for a vote. But that's just my personal feeling about it. So there we go.
It's a fair comment. The intent behind that number is to be something less than majority, more than 2. So, and the phrase we used last time was a super second. So it's a way for this commission to say that there's sufficient interest to consume the time of this commission. The second reading is probably where most of the real debate and discussion will occur. It's where the real time commitment is. So before we decide that resources, the commission's resources should be spent in that manner, that's the intent behind that. Okay, so we still have the motion on the floor to approve step 3. I haven't heard a motion to amend. So that being the case, then I will ask if there are any objections to approving step 3 as shown. Commissioner Arlaguemi, objection? Commissioner Landsberg, objection or question?
No, an objection. I think 6 is too high a threshold to
Okay.
just move things forward.
Okay, so we'll take it to a vote then. Is there one more comment? Okay. Commissioner Gatzon, do you have your hand up? Yep. Okay. All right. So we will do this. We'll do a roll call vote. Michelle, if you could please. The motion on the floor is to approve.
Chair, sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't see.
I would just like to move to amend the motion to strike 6 affirmative votes and move that to 5.
Okay.
Commissioner LeBrand will second the motion.
Okay. So then we have a secondary motion to amend step 3 to require 6 votes. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion on that topic?
5.
Sorry, to move it from 6 to 5. Thank you. Commissioner Chrisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think based on what everybody said, I can be inclined to support that and give that a yay vote.
Okay. All right.
I'll just speak against the amendment if I can, sir. I think 6 is already a very low threshold. It's less than a majority, as you said. I would stick with 6. We could have 30 pages submitted next week, and if somebody doesn't have 6 votes, I don't think they should continue on our agenda. It's a very low threshold for initial support as is.
Okay. Do you have a comment, Commissioner Gasquet?
I'm just kind of curious about in this process, what happens if a bunch of proposals that are similar are given to you? Like, because we're talking about first reading and where there's no discussion and we can't really and then we're expected to vote on them. I just kind of feel like in this process, we need to know what we do with similar proposals or proposals that are on the same section of the charter. A lot of people threw around a lot of ideas that definitely have crossover and they may not have picked up on that. And so I just perceive you saying 30 proposals, at some point, those are going to cross over.
So it's a fair question. The discussion that we had earlier today and the manner in which the minutes will be prepared and distributed are aimed at addressing that topic. And that would be a good discussion topic, perhaps for the work committee as well, to address how we would contemplate overlapping. I don't think that overlap in the first reading is overly problematic. It would become more important to address in the second reading. Mr. Benson?
To speak to the amendment, I think 6 is a good number, so I would encourage a no vote.
Okay. Commissioner Gomez.
Chair, just to speak to Commissioner Gasquet's comments, I do just want to state for the record and for the work plan subcommittee, however it's comprised in the future, that I believe this is the only format in which we can meet under OPMA. It might behoove us to have a work session or a workshop or something that breaks us out of this setting and gives us the opportunity to actually work on items sort of at a roundtable or something like that. So
that's a good comment. The intent is that this body can task the subcommittee with their work and to provide direction and input. So, for example, when we come to the work plan to the public outreach, the intent is that public outreach will not be developed with only the opinions of those members of the subcommittee, but we could go around, have input from the group and share that with the work committee so it can inform their work.
Sorry, Chair, I'm speaking purely to the comment about distilling many versions of the same idea into one, right? So I think there are other methods for us to meet to do that. That might help to take that task.
Yeah, I understood your comment to mean that some discussion of this group on that topic could be had, and that those comments could be used to inform the work, the subcommittee.
No, Chair, I'm more saying that those comments could then be used to help us pair off the offered ideas, concepts, amendments, what have you, and distill them into, okay, this is the concept that takes the most from each of these. Let's say there are 8 submittals that are basically the same idea, right? We would in session then take those to one concrete one, then that gets referred to committee, right? So just letting us trim a lot of those off without moving into there.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to a vote on the amendment, which is to change the vote threshold in step 3 from 6 to 5. All in favor of that amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, say no.
Say no.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Let's do that again. It's my fault. If you're in favor of the amendment to change the threshold from 6 to 5, please say aye.
Aye.
If you oppose that and want to keep it at 6, please say no.
No.
Okay.
We need
Joe,
a
would you
poll
please
roll.
do a roll call vote, please?
Mhm. And this is regarding the amendment to the original motion.
Correct.
From
From 6 to 5.
6 to 5. Commissioner Ottaguame,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Nay.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
Aye.
Chair Erickson,
No.
Secretary Garber,
No.
Commissioner Hamlick,
Aye.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Aye.
Commissioner Landisberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Jay,
Nay.
Commissioner Klein,
Nay.
Commissioner Gasquet,
Aye.
Commissioner Holmgren,
Aye.
Commissioner Benton,
Nay.
Vice Chair Haas,
Aye.
and Commissioner Silliman.
Nay.
8 ayes and 7 nays.
The motion carries. So item number 3 is amended to require 5 affirmative votes. We're back to the main motion to accept step 3 as amended. Are there any opposed to accepting step 3 as amended? Okay, seeing none, step 3 is accepted as amended. Thank you. Commissioners, we have about a little over 10 minutes left. I would suggest that we discuss the intake form, and Michelle, could you please put that up on the screen? Okay, this is what's up on the screen is a slightly modified version of the intake form that from what you saw last time. It's had a little bit of formatting done to it. It's also been electronically modified to allow for fillable. It's fillable, which means that electronically you can get in and type in designated spaces. Michelle, would you be able to scroll up a little bit?
Scroll up.
Yes, so we can see the bottom of the form, please. Thank you. So I believe Commissioner Garber, you had commented earlier about removing the signature line, which I think is well taken. Commissioner Benton.
I just have a comment. I want to get through this today as well, but do we need to designate a subcommittee for the rest of the work plan before we leave here tonight so that they can have something to come back to us with?
That would be ideal. Yep. So we can, if we can work that in soon, then yes. Commissioner Jay.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move that we accept this amendment proposal intake form without, though, the acknowledgement portion, just so we can respect Secretary Garber's request for withholding our signatures.
Second, Haas.
And just to clarify, you said without the acknowledgement form, or is that the entire section, or just the removal of the signature line?
We'll just do just the signature.
Okay.
Let's just get rid of that.
Okay. And Commissioner Haas, are you okay with that? Okay. So the motion on the floor is to accept the intake form as shown with the exception that the signature line would be removed. Are there any objections to that? Commissioner Laguarme.
Yes, just noting my objection.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments before we go to a vote then? Okay. Michelle, would you please do a roll call vote? The motion on the floor is to accept the intake form as shown with the exception that the signature line will be removed.
Commissioner Ottaguame,
No.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Yes.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
Aye.
Chair Erickson,
Aye.
Secretary Garber,
Aye.
Commissioner Hamlick,
Aye.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Aye.
Commissioner Landisberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Jay,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein, Commissioner
Aye.
Gasquet, Commissioner Holmgren,
Aye.
Commissioner Benton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Haas,
Aye.
Commissioner Silliman,
Aye.
14 ayes, 1 nay.
Thank you. Motion carries. So we do have steps 2 and 3 approved along with the intake form. Thank you, commissioners. We can continue to discuss the work plan, or we could pivot to the subcommittee. I believe there was some interest in paneling the subcommittee. Is there any discussion or preference to do otherwise? Commissioner Jay.
I'd like to motion that we approve the work plan with the combination of the step 6, which is the committee study, as well as the drafting, and allow for the leadership team to weave that together.
Okay, and for clarification, you're suggesting approval of the balance of the work plan outline with the understanding that the subcommittee can continue to review that and perhaps bring refinements back to this commission for consideration.
Yes, sir. I'm aligned to that. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Donnelly?
I second that.
Okay. Any discussion on that topic? Commissioner Edelgwami?
Chair, I believe this will be the third time that we've considered a motion to approve the rest of the work plan. I think this body has made it clear that they would like to see it go to a work plan subcommittee so that they can actually flesh it out and bring us back something usable to then improve. So I just want to voice my opposition to the motion.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gasquet?
I'm just a little confused. So we're saying the subcommittee is now drafting the resolution rather than.
No, the motion was to approve the balance of this outline, starting with, we've approved up to step 3. So the motion was to approve the balance of it, but with the modification that steps 5 and 6 be merged into one, and that the second 2 bullet points of step 7 be eliminated as well.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yes.
Having already discussed the work plan and a number of motions along those lines, and now having moved on to the proposal intake form and approved that, I believe our next item on the agenda is the work plan subcommittee. And it would behoove us to not backtrack on the agenda.
Okay, that point is well taken. Thank you. Okay. So let's abide by that. Thank you for that clarification. For clarification, the vision for the work plan subcommittee is to be comprised of up to 7 members, 3 of whom are part of the executive, or the 3 members of the executive committee, and then 4 additional commissioners. Their work would be to recommend any revisions to the outline based on input from this body, determination or recommendations for schedules and timelines, as well as public outreach, all of which would include input from this body as a whole on occasion. If there are more than 4 commissioners who are interested, then we would have a drawing.
Would you like self-nominations?
Chair Erickson, can I ask a question? So we've moved on to work plan subcommittees, but we have a motion and a second on the floor.
That is a good point. And we had a point of order that brought us back to our agenda for the.
Then we need to do something with the motion.
Basically ruled those out of order without saying that.
Thank you, Michelle. So if there is interest in self-appointments or nominations of others, or self-nominations or nominations of others to the work plan subcommittee, we'll entertain that. Commissioner Klein?
Chair, I nominate Peter Silliman.
Commissioner Donnelly?
I would be willing to serve.
Commissioner Gasquet?
I would also like to serve.
Okay. We have 3. Is there a 4th interest, Commissioner Edelgwami?
Chair, I'd like to nominate Commissioner LeBrant.
Okay. Commissioner Jay?
Chair, I'm open to serving where needed.
Okay. Okay, that's 5. All right. Then we will need to do a drawing, and we had planned on. Would you be able to write those?
Before we have a drawing, there's 2 people who didn't nominate themselves, and I think they should have the opportunity, if they don't want to serve, to say something.
Yeah, the nomination or self-nomination process isn't closed. So if there's anyone else who would like to add their name to that, the opportunity exists. Okay.
Mr. Chair, point of clarification, if one person withdraws their nomination because they said they were willing, would that leave 4 people and they would just be appointed?
Yeah, if one person removes their name from consideration, then we're down to 4 and no drawing would be required.
Mr. J, would you consider withdrawing? You said you would serve if needed, but if you withdraw, then we don't have to take time to have a vote, and we have 4 members.
Yeah, I'm aligned with that.
Okay.
I just, so long as my wishes of 4 votes from start to finish to get a ballot on the ballot, then I will support the plan. So long as the commissioners respect that wish, then I
It'll
assume
be
they will.
taken into consideration.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Okay, so the 7 members of the work plan subcommittee would include the 3 members of the executive team, Commissioner Silman, Commissioner Donnelly, Commissioner Gasquet, and Commissioner LeBrun. Is there a motion to impanel the work plan subcommittee comprised with those commissioners?
So moved.
Commissioner Klein?
Seconded.
Seconded. Okay. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposed? Commissioner Katie?
So with regard to the subcommittee, for the amount of work that the subcommittee would be looking at, then the OPMA would apply and the subcommittee would have to give public notice for your meeting, and that would be have to be held in open meeting, because they would be, the amount of work that you're asking them to do would be for the body as a whole. I would caution that, because there would be differing opinions, as there is right now. And the appropriate step would be to be overly cautious than under cautious when it comes to the open meeting. Because even though you don't have a quorum, if that non-quorum body is acting as de facto for this larger body, or is just acting for it, making decisions, then you have to have open meeting. And that has been the case in the past as well.
Point well taken. The intent is that the subcommittee would act in an advisory role and come back with recommendations for this body to consider. Does that change your input?
It's like an ad hoc meeting.
I would strongly caution against not having it publicly announced to the public because of the amount of work that is entailed in that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that input. So the OPMA compliance is secondary to, is not germane actually to the actual motion of impaneling the committee based on the membership that's been proposed. It's been motioned and seconded. Were there any objections? Okay, seeing none, then we have a work plan subcommittee comprised of Commissioner Garber, Commissioner Erickson, Commissioner Haas, Commissioner Silman, Commissioner Donnelly, Commissioner Gasquet, and Commissioner LeBrun. Thank you. Commissioners, I believe then that brings us to the end of our allotted time. Appreciate all of the input and discussion today. We will be sending out the amended intake form and would encourage you to work with your fellow commissioners to identify sponsors and co-sponsors. And then you can submit that to the chair and to Michelle. And we will begin with first readings of properly submitted forms at our next commission. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Any opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned.